You have to know this. The fact that I'm here matters. The fact that you're there matters. This is no accident. None of us are.
If you do not have style, you just say, well, here I am, you know, as a human being. How can I express myself?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
There is no way around. You have to jump.
And we are calling it iPhone.
نريدها قومة ونهضة إسلامية. I have a dream. It's about yes we can.
لأول مرة في برنامج أصحاب السلطة أشعر بالخطر، الخطر الحقيقي، وترافقني قوات حماية، وذلك لأني في عاصمة الخطر. لذلك تجردت من لباسي الوطني مضطرا لكي لا أجلب الأضواء. من فينا لا يعرف كولومبيا وبابلو اسكوبار؟
Pablo Escobar.
Cocaine kingpin.
Pablo twice tried to assassinate.
Trying to show Colombia that he was tougher than Colombia.
ولكن هل نعرف فعلا الحقيقة؟ اليوم نلتقي بمن هرب منها قبل 24 عاما، ابنه خوان بابلو اسكوبار، والذي غير اسمه وهرب لكي يتحاشى تهديدات القتل التي تصله ليومنا هذا. Yesterday I forget to ask you whether to call you Juan Pablo or Sebastian. What do you prefer?
For me it's the same, you know, my name doesn't define the man I am.
Sure.
So,
but what do you want me to call you? Can I call you Juan?
Yes, wherever you
Okay.
feel. If you
Sure.
call me Juan, you will call in this two names at the
Okay,
same time.
okay.
Juan Pablo and Juan Sebastian.
How did you find Colombia now?
Well, I think it's better than in the 80s. Less violence, less terrorism.
What you felt when you arrived from Argentina?
Well, I always, when I leave this country, I thought that I will never come back, because when we had to escape from here, our father's enemies told us that if we came back, they will kill us. So it's like a miracle to be here with you today.
Thank you again, Juan, for this chance to interview you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you for flying all this way from Argentina to here. But I think you believe in what we do. The knowledge that you have should be shared, at least for the young generation all over the world, to know not the story. We're not here to say the story. Everyone believe that knows the story. What do you think? Everyone knows the story?
Well, I think there's a lot of versions of the same story, and the big difference is how honest is the version you have for yourself.
And do you think you have your own version of the story?
I've been doing a lot of research about my father for the past years. You know, I published 2 books about my father, 2 documentaries. I interview a lot of people. He was very close to him, and even to his worst enemies. I approached to them for my last book, and a lot of people told me that I was crazy because I could get killed. But I thought that the best way to know really my father is not only to speak with his friends, but with his enemies.
And why do you think people will... We tried to find your book. It is sold everywhere. It's not easy to find your book.
Well, I should say that thanks to Narcos, a lot of people got involved in the history of Pablo Escobar. But sadly, the message for the young generation is that, and I can check that by the social media. I receive a lot of message from a lot of people around the world, and they send me pictures of their own tattoos about my father, and they're like big fans of Pablo Escobar. And I keep telling them, look, I love my father, but I will never advise you to follow his steps.
You didn't even to choose, you had the chance to follow his steps.
Every day of my life.
Every day, till today.
Until today and tomorrow.
And as you know, as I told you, we're not here to know the different versions of stories. We're here to redefine the power that Pablo Escobar represented. And why we believe that you're the best to say that, because of the conversation we had yesterday when you said you were one of the few that could tell him no.
Well, my father was surrounded with people that always encouraged him to be more violent. And he was more than confused because he was using violence, terrorism against everyone, and I didn't felt proud of that at all. I asked him to stop a lot of times. I was one of the first victims of the narco-terrorism story in Colombia. And in the year 1988, January 13, a bomb exploded in my home, 700 kilos of dynamite that almost killed us. And I kept discussing with my father and telling him, look, I don't want you to put bombs everywhere. I think that you have to find peace and you have to find a way out of this, because every day we are in a bad position and everybody's chasing us because of your actions. So I never felt comfortable at all because of that, because I was very aware that my father's enemy, they knew that the only thing that could hurt Pablo Escobar was hurting myself. So if they can kill me, they can kidnap me, they will hurt Pablo Escobar. But so I was suffering the consequences of his violence. And I think that made me aware of that, and that's why I never encouraged him to pursue violence. When he surrendered to La Catedral prison, he dedicated that to his 14-year-old pacifist son. And I will always remember that, because I know for sure that he knew that I was having very different kind of feelings about the whole situation.
He said that he is doing this for his 14-year-old son, but was it the truth? Did you?
Well, I think we were all naive about that, and really, I thought that my father was going to spend, I don't know, 15, 20 years in prison, but I was happy because it was the first time in my life that I could visit my father without looking back and to see if somebody was after me or whatever, and so I was very positive about the La Catedral prison. Even if you have gold bars in a prison, it's still a prison. And I thought that Colombia we're going to live a lot of peace, and that really happened just for a year. And I think he missed the opportunity that the government and the Colombian people gave him to pay for his crimes. And it was really sad when I noticed that he ordered the killing of his partners inside of prison. So he just didn't realize the big mistake he was committing at the time.
Just a minute ago you said that people hunted you because they know that Pablo cared for his son. And because he cares about you a lot, we believe that you know him also a lot, because people knows who they love. And as you always repeatedly said that you love him because he's your father. But knowing that he's a powerful man is not a secret. But what did he want to seek? Personally, what do you think that he wanted to seek through that power?
Well, I think that originally he wanted to help a lot of people, the poor people of Colombia. But when you got involved with the drug trafficking business, thanks to prohibition, there's a lot of violence. So even if you are a good man, you have to become a very bad man just to be part of the business. And at the beginning, if you check my father's story, the first thing he did was helping a lot of poor people. Of course, he now is more remembered for the bombings and the terrorism and the kidnappings and the killings. But at the beginning, he had like good faith. He wanted to do something crazy. He wanted to put the drug trafficking business in favor of the poorest people of Colombia. And well, of course, that it never worked, because he used to tell me the schools, the hospitals, the bridges, and everything that the politicians never built, I'm going to build that for the poor people of Colombia. And I'm not going to ask for their permission. I have a lot of money to give, and I will do that. It was his deepest intention, to help.
This is what you really believe?
Yes, but he was also a very ambitious man. When he was 23 years old, he told his friends in the neighborhood that once he was 30 years old, if he doesn't have $1 million, he will kill himself. So you can know how ambitious he was, and he didn't care, and he will do anything possible to have.
To reach his goals.
Yes.
And for you, you of course, from a kid to a young boy, many people believe that 16 years old or 15 years old is now known as some soldiers are in this age. You were in an age where you know things. How did you look to your father that time, especially in the last 2 years?
Well, since I was 7 years old, when my father ordered the killing of the Minister of Justice, Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, we had to escape to Panama under the protection of General Noriega. And I remember that my father told me, "Look, son, I'm a bandit, and that's what I do for a living." Since then, we saw all the news together, we read the newspaper, the magazines, and he didn't have a problem to say, "Yes, I am responsible for this." So it was a very awkward situation for a son to just every day see his father like making a big confession about what he was doing to his own son. And I thought that he'd do that because he didn't want it to, his son will know something about his father, but thanks to the news, because he already knew that there was a lot of lies behind that.
And maybe you didn't have a choice because you're his son. But what about your mother? Your mother had a chance.
Well, when people try to judge my mother,
yes,
they really don't know that she got involved and in love with my father when she was 13 years old. And he was one of the poorest men of the neighborhood. He didn't even have a dream about the power he was going to have like 10 years after that. And they escaped from home, they get married, and they have me as a son. And then my father started the business. So I have to ask for the people to respect my mother's love for my father, because her only sin was just to be there as a wife, always.
Sometimes in the same house, people have different political views. Something simple, or even the taste. Some eat meat, some eat chicken, some are vegetarian. But those discussions happen in the house.
And I may say something about my mother and about those discussions. My mother was one of the most brave women I ever met, because she confronted my father a lot of times because of his violence. She tried very hard to stop him, as everybody tried to stop Pablo Escobar, even myself. But only his own death could stop him at the end.
Didn't the family have the chance earlier to make him take that choice? If his wife wanted him to stop and telling him to stop, she could give him the choice whether to maintain a normal family, doing decent things, or to continue in the criminal path and to lose his family. Wasn't that a choice?
I think when you are the boss of the biggest cartel on earth, it's hard to quit, very hard to quit. Because if you do that, a lot of people will be mad at you and they will kill you, because they will feel that you left them alone. So I think that there was a point in the life of my father, that a point of no return. You know, it was impossible for him to stop everything he created. Even when he was in prison, he had to deal with the Cali cartel war. So even if he wanted to be a good man, or to become a good man, he couldn't, because he was living a war against one of the other biggest cartel, who wanted to kill all his family and to kidnap his kid, etc. So I think it was very hard, and I'm not saying this to justify him, just the truth and what happened at the time.
To be realistic.
Yes, it was.
Understood.
And it was also his decision. I think that he could also escape and change his name, and he could, I don't know, change his own face. But he wasn't the kind of man that wanted to run away from things. He was a very intelligent and brave man in that kind of things.
I understand how everyone here believes that, or many people, let's say, believes that you were a victim of, one of the victims of Pablo Escobar. One of the things that we chat when we came from the airport, you said that many people here hate me. It was for me obvious, but you said they hate me because I didn't continue in my father's path.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because it's like I received like less than a year ago death threats because I didn't become in somebody like my father. I had the chance all days of my life to be Pablo Escobar 2.0, but I don't want to live that kind of life. I already lived the experience, and I am not pursuing the dream of being a millionaire again because I was starving when I was a millionaire. I don't
Starving?
Yes, I was about to die. We have more than $4 million with my father in a house like this, but we were starving because none of us could just get out of to the street and buy a piece of bread. But we have $4 million in cash. So if I don't pay attention to those kind of lessons of life, for sure I will be repeating my father's stories. And that's what I try to tell to the young generations. Pay attention to the real story, because the real story is not the story you see when you watch Narcos. It's a very different kind of story. The lessons we learn as human beings are very different. And I am the man I am today. I choose to be a peaceful man because I understood that violence won't take you to a nice place.
We'll talk about that, but before talking about your choices that you've took since Colombia had a new life after Pablo Escobar is dead. But before talking about that, by saying that you're the victim, and by saying that many people paid, I wanted to know what was his point of view, Pablo Escobar's point of view. How does he justify, what does he want to reach? I know that you said he wanted to build schools, bridges. Was the payment that he needs to do is some victims? Is that how he thought about it?
Well, I have to say something about the word victim. I have to show a lot of respect for my father's victims. So I will never introduce myself as a victim because I respect thousands of victims of my father. And I can understand your point of view that I could be a victim of my own father, and that could be truth. But I have to show respect to my father victims. And I think that my father was pursuing, you can, when you have a lot of power, you became addicted to that. That's the biggest addiction and the hardest addiction to give away. So for me, he was he understood when he get into politics, he understood that there was a bigger power than that. And he understood, he resigned to be part of the politicians here in Colombia because, of course, they discovered that he was a drug dealer, etc. Now it's a common thing. It's like half of the politicians here are drug dealers too. So it's like he was the first one who got caught. That's it. But I think that he got addicted to power, very addicted to that. And once he understood that he could be and that he could have even more power than the president, that's why he just decided to be a bandit, and that's it. And there was a point in the life of Pablo Escobar where he had more power than the president. And I saw that because I saw him writing letters every day of his life. And he told me, I'm going to write a letter to the government, and I want to, they publish a special law for me. And the next day, the law was there. And he checked the law, he didn't like some things, and he write again, and he asked him, you have to change this. I think he's the first man in the world who built his own prison, who chose his own way of life in prison. He was the director of his own prison, and he was a bandit. So he had more power than the government at the time. He changed even the constitution of this country just to avoid the extradition to the United States.
Talking about a person with that power, How do people expect that you can be 2.0 Pablo Escobar? I mean, what makes you special? Why do they think that you can reach that power?
Well, there's a lot of people that thinks that if you have this last name, Escobar, so you have to be a drug dealer and you have to be a gangster. And I wanted to stop that. I don't want to be part of that circle of violence again. I don't want to leave my son the same problems that I inherited from my father. I don't want to see my son in the same position that I was when I was 16, negotiating for my life with the Cali cartel, going to a meeting that they assured me that they were going to kill me in that meeting. And I had two chances, I had to run away and escape from that, but I knew that sooner or later they would kill me. So I thought, okay, let's finish this now. If they want to kill me, I will go and let them do what they want with me, and this will end.
And this is at the age 16?
When I was 16, yes. So I don't know if they thought that I was stupid just for being there or very brave. I really don't know the difference. But they gave me the opportunity to live, and I'm thankful for that. And they do me a favor at the time. They steal all the money from us. And I thank them in my last book, because if they didn't do something like that with me and my family, perhaps I will become a very violent man. Because money makes you crazy. Money makes you think that you can do anything you want, that you can kill everyone, and then you can decide for the life and destiny of everyone.
I saw you yesterday talking to your son in a video call. I know every father loves his son, but I saw a different type of love. I saw you giving him kisses and talking to him for a period of time while checking in the hotel. Do you think that you love your son more than your father loved you?
Well, I think that when we became fathers, we understood, we can understand better our own fathers. But it's difficult to compare the kind of love that I feel for my father and the kind of love that he felt for me and the one that I felt for my son. But I really do believe that I am acting in a more responsible way, because I waited more than 20 years to start trying to bring a son to our home. And I waited too much, because I was feeling not safe at all, and I was afraid that if I had a son, he would be pursued and thanks to the actions of his own grandfather. So that's why I waited so much time to bring him to the world, but because I didn't want him to live the same violence at all. I just wanted to stop and to see that is everything peaceful now. Okay, now we can think about the possibility of having a son in our home. But for 20 years, I felt that even before to the possibility of being a father, you have to be responsible of that. And I made those decisions to stop dreaming with the possibility of being a father, because I felt that he could be pursued by thanks to his grandfather's crimes.
What is similar between your phone call to your son? What are the words that they're the same between your words that you choose for your son and your father's words that he chooses when he talks to you?
Well, I call my son exactly as my father used to call me.
Which is?
Like raton, is like a mouse. I call him raton. That's the way I call him with a lot of love. And it's the same way like my father used to call me.
Talking about phone calls, I want to stop here. And before saying the question, I want to tell you, many believe that Pablo Escobar is this strong guy, this person that has a zoo and has cars, and as you said, he's more powerful than a president. He produced 80% of the cocaine in the world. That powerful person, Forbes say that he has $30 billion. When he called you in the last phone call before his death in half an hour, how did you felt? Did you felt that is a powerful man?
No, he was committing suicide, because he teach me for the past 10 years of his life, don't ever use and touch the phone, because phone is death. So I was very aware that he was calling us just to say goodbye. He let his own enemies find him, because he called several times to the hotel, and he identified himself as Pablo Escobar, and they were tracing the call, of course. And he knew that perfectly. That's why if you can check the recordings of the calls. I hang up to my father many times, and I told him, don't call anymore. We are fine. We are good. Just don't call anymore, because they are going to find you. You teach me that for the past 10 years of your life. So why are you calling? Because you know what's going to happen. So I am absolutely sure that my father called with the final decision to end his life at the time. And if you can check the pictures of the moment when he was already dead, you will notice that he wasn't wearing any shoes, you know. And the most wanted man in the world, it was my father at the time. He always told me, look, son, shoes are more important than guns to run away from the police and from your enemies. So he always was wearing shoes. That's why when I was checking the pictures, the photographs, I was just thinking, okay, he was not wearing shoes at all, so he didn't want to escape. He was waiting for them.
Okay. Going back to the phone call, because I wanted to know how to define the power. When does the power end? Did you felt by that phone call he was weak?
Yes, and there's one chapter in my last book. It's called the last 72 hours of my father. And I interviewed the 3 people who was just taking care of him, and they knew him very well from a long time ago. And they all told me that my father was not the same guy in those days. He was very sad. They saw him crying, and I just saw my father crying once in my life. The powerful man we remember is not the same guy in the last 72 hours of his own life. So I really understood that my father was losing control of his own life. And once he understood that he had to choose between his life or his family's life, he chose to end his own life, and he committed suicide.
And by saying that a powerful person cry, why does a powerful person cry? You saw him once. What was that occasion?
It was the last time we saw him because my father was trying to negotiate again with the government to surrender for a second time. And part of the deal was, okay, I want to protect my family, and he told to the government, you have to protect my family and I will surrender. But it was just like a trap, you know. It was something that it will never happen. They will never want it to be, and to have Pablo Escobar in jail again. They wanted to kill him because he was causing a lot of trouble. So they thought it was a better idea to kill him than to bring him into the prison again. So that was just part of the deal with the government. And there was the time when we said goodbye. It was like, I think it was September 1993, the last time we saw him. And he was crying, and he couldn't even speak, because I believe he felt that it was the last time in his own life that he was going to see us alive as a family together.
What made him weak?
His family. There was a big enemy of my father called Fidel Castaño, and he used to say that the biggest mistake of Pablo Escobar was having a family, because when you are a bandit, you shouldn't have a family. So if you don't have a family, you have nothing to lose.
Many
you have
people
no weak points.
Understood, but he had a family for a long time. You were 16 years old. What made him at the end weak? What did he lost? Many enemies, more enemies?
The sad part is that he helped a lot of people to become rich, and they
You
all
understand
betrayed
me,
him.
right? I mean, family is a weakness, but it's there for
Yes,
16 years.
but there's also a weakness, because when you see all of your army just changing sides, you know, betraying him, I think that was the end for Pablo Escobar. When he killed his own associates in the La Catedral prison, it was the end for him.
And he was always loyal to his people. So why do you
Yes.
think that he lost loyalty from his people?
I really don't know, because a lot of people lose his own human values. They don't respect anything. They just want money and power, and they don't care how they can get it.
How did you receive the news your father is killed?
Well, I was speaking with my father, and he told me, I will call you back I'll call you back. That was the last word I heard from him. And 10 minutes after that, I received a call from a journalist, and she told me, look, your father is dead. The police confirmed that they killed him in the Obelisco shopping mall. And I tell to the journalist, shopping mall, but he was just buying a couple of jeans, or what he was doing there. But the real thing is that my father wasn't in a shopping mall. We only saw the images. He was living in a very different neighborhood from the shopping mall. But the real thing is that the police wasn't there in the final mission when my father died. It was Los Pepes, you know, the part of the mob that got together with the authorities, the government, a lot of people with power. They all got together to fight against my father. So the guy who really found my father was Carlos Castaño, the brother of Fidel Castaño. And the police official report, they even sent the official report to the U.S. Embassy the same day that my father died, and they assured that they killed my father in a shopping mall, and everybody knows that he wasn't there. So that confirms that the police wasn't even near from Pablo Escobar at the time. It was his own enemies. And sadly, they were all his closest friends in the past.
So, but did you believe that call when she called you that he's dead? You said it's
Well,
his.
for me, it was very hard to believe that, because 10 minutes ago I was just speaking with him,
Yes.
you know, but I felt that something like that was possible to happen, and I tell her like 3 times, I don't want to speak now, I don't want to speak now, we don't want to say anything, but she kept asking and asking, and when I realized that that could be true, I make a big threat, and she never told me that she was recording my call. She couldn't even do that because I was a minor, and as a journalist she couldn't record a minor without his parents' permission, but she didn't care. She just published what I said, and I said sadly that I was going to kill everybody, just alone and myself.
So that was the same phone call.
5 seconds of threats became in 25 years of exile. That's why I think twice when I answer a question.
So the same phone call that you received, you were the first one to take the phone, so you knew before your mother?
Yes.
And in the same phone call, you threatened everyone that was
Yes.
involved in his killing?
Yes. That's why the Cali cartel wanted to kill me in that meeting, because of
I
the
understood.
threat.
So, receiving such a news, you said that you expected it, because making him calling you is a suicide by itself. But there is phases to understand someone really close death. So it's the news first, how to absorb it, how to live it. When was the saddest moment where you felt that you lost a father?
Well, my father was our only protection in this country, you know, because if something happened to me or to my sister or my mother, if I call the police at the time, they will send guys to kill us, not to help us. So my father was the only thing we got left as to protect ourselves from the outsiders. So for me, I felt very, very weak, and I felt that I was going to be the next dead man of Colombia, for sure, because I fled the country, my father was killed, or he committed suicide, it depends who you ask, so I thought I'm dead now. I don't have anything to lose, I felt dead, absolutely, because we lose all the protection we have. If I called the district attorney, they were part of Los Pepes. If I called the police, they were part of Los Pepes. If I called the army, they were also part of Los Pepes. So there was no help at all for us.
لا أحد ينكر بأن الحالة الأمنية في كولومبيا تطورت كثيرا في العقود الأخيرة. أولها كان مقتل بابلو اسكوبار في عام 93، وفي عام 2016 كانت أيضا أكبر الخطوات وهي بإنهاء الحرب الأهلية التي امتدت لما يزيد عن 52 عام، وهي اتفاقية تحسب للرئيس الحالي مع أحد أكبر العصابات هنا، والتي تسمى العصابات هنا بالغوريلاز، اسمها لاس فارك. ولكن يبقى هاجس التفجيرات موجود. فقبل لحظات بسيطة في إحدى المناطق هناك خلفي فشلت عملية انتحارية كان ضحيتها الانتحاري نفسه. ولكن لا أحد ينكر بأن الحالة الأمنية هنا في كولومبيا تحسنت كثيرا. ففي وقت بابلو اسكوبار لم يكن هناك مكان آمن، حتى قصر العدل أو ما يسمى بوزارة العدل الخلفي كان أحد ضحايا بابلو اسكوبار بعد وفاة عشرات القضاة والمواطنين بسبب هذا التفجير.
Sorry, I'm not an expert in the Colombian history, but I know that it all started in violence was there more than 500 years ago, and also it started in another phase in 1948 and in 1950 when there is red and blue and all those deaths. So the violence was there all the time.
My father didn't invent the violence in Colombia. He was part of it, and he was part of it because, you know, it's like almost 25 years of his death, and violence, you can still smell violence here in Colombia. It's not that everything really changed. Of course, we are a better country now. We are making peace with a lot of part of their guerrillas, etc. But as long as we have prohibition, we will have violence forever. I can assure you that. And we will have Pablo Escobar unlimited.
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 As you know that we'll have the chance tomorrow to interview the president, which had the Nobel Prize because of ending the civil war, and this is also an additional proof that Pablo Escobar didn't invent violence, because it's been there for more than 50 years. So what did he add to the equation? The violence was there. What do you think, you believe that the power of Pablo Escobar added to that equation of violence here in Colombia?
Well, I think that he was like one of the most intelligent businessmen I ever met, because he had nothing and he made an empire of nothing, and that's thanks to prohibition. But you know, at the beginning of the business, it was the North Americans that came here in his own private planes, and they bring the drugs to the United States. So my father just provide a new service. You don't have to bother to come here and buy the drugs and take you home. I will take them to you, and I will put all the drugs just in your door. And
home delivery.
Home delivery, yes. And he was so successful in his own business, and the world wasn't prepared at all to fight the drug on wars, the war on drugs. I'm sorry. And because my father, he put like an assurance company, and he said to all the drug dealers and to all the people, I will assure you that if you give me your money, I will give you back, 300% of your money in 15 days, because I will use your money to send cocaine to the United States. But if I lose the cocaine in the middle of the trip, don't worry. It's like if you already win. because you are talking with Pablo Escobar, so I will assure you that you already win. Just make business with me. That's why he became so rich. He had so much control and power around the business that he could even just say, I will guarantee that your money will be safe with me.
So 300% with no risk?
Or more.
Zero risk?
Zero risk.
So he's the best businessman ever, maybe?
Well, when I visited him at his office, I saw like more than 300 people waiting for just having a 5-minute meeting with him. Everybody wanted to be part of that business. Politicians, sportsmen, and policemen, everybody wanted to be part of it. Doctors, lawyers, everybody wanted to invest in Pablo Escobar's office because he will assure you with his own fortune that even if you lose, he will give you back all your money and all the earnings. So I remember that I used to visit him at lunch, and I saw the same guy for 3 days, and he was wearing the same clothes. He never moved from the office because he wanted to have 5 minutes with my father, and it was very common, a very common thing. The people never leave the office because they wanted to make business with him. They were desperate. My father didn't have enough time to receive everyone. So a lot of people in Colombia participated in the business, but the only one responsible was Pablo Escobar. And he didn't care to take all the responsibility. He was the first man who declared as a civilian a war to a whole government, to the Colombian state.
Es que el ministro de Justicia le ha mentido al país aproximadamente 6 veces. Primero, le mintió al país cuando dijo que no conocía al señor Evaristo Porras. Segundo, le mintió al país cuando dijo que no había recibido cheques personales del señor Evaristo Porras. Tercero, le mintió al país cuando dijo que Pablo Escobar había sido el fundador del MAS. Cuarto, le mintió al país cuando dijo que Pablo Escobar tenía antecedentes penales en el gobierno de los Estados Unidos. También le mintió al país cuando le dijo, cuando sacó la carta del señor Bahamón, donde es una carta ingenua, es una carta débil en argumentos, un cheque girado por $1 millón y uno no tiene conocimiento que se gira a nombre de uno, es un argumento ingenuo y un argumento débil. Y por último, el señor ministro de Justicia le mintió al país cuando le dijo que no iba a renunciar. Vamos a ver qué pasa en estos próximos días.
Many countries have bad economy, bad lifestyle. They always put it on the head of the economy, of the head of the country, and they always think that whenever we take this leader out of the picture, the country suddenly becomes better. Was this what people expected when they hunted Pablo Escobar, that by his ending his life, Colombia will be something different?
Yes, there was a lot of hope. Everybody had a lot of hope that everything will be different. But here we are, 25 years after his death, and everything is almost the same. You can see that, as you told me, you find a lot of dogs everywhere. If you go to a shopping mall, to a hotel, there's always a dog trying to smell some kind of explosives or something like that. So the fear is still there, the violence still is there, and also the business is working better every day, you know. If you compare the amount of cocaine that my father used to send to the United States, if you compare to that kind of numbers with today's numbers, you will notice that the business just grow very fast, never stopped.
But maybe because there is no one leader, maybe in your father's time there was a leader, there was a face of
Now you have a bunch of small cartels. You cannot know where they are, how they work, because they are very young people. They belong to very well-known families in Colombia, so nobody suspects anything. And they work together, and they are winning a lot of money.
What do you say for those rich young people? What do you tell them? Will they retire ever?
It's hard to retire from having that kind of power, you know. What I do is invite them to read my books, to watch my documentaries, so they will learn the lessons, the real lessons of being part of that kind of life. Because at the end, you will lose everything. The drug trafficking business can promise you that you're going to be very rich and that you're going to own the world. But at the end, you will lose everything, even your families and your own life. So what's the point of being involved in a business that you're going to lose everything at the end?
I know that they love their children, and you're the child of Pablo Escobar. Please tell me the feeling of seeing an American officer above your father's body, swimming in his own blood. What was your feeling seeing that photo?
I felt that my father was treated like an animal. It's just like a trophy. It's like when somebody kills a lion and takes a picture and, hey, I killed the lion, you know, it's just like... I felt, and I understood that my father chose to die that day because he really understood also that if he didn't die December 2nd of 1993, or he would be alive and to watch how all of his loved ones will die, because they make him choose. You want your family alive, so you have to kill yourself. There's no way you can live with your family, or you die or your family die. You have to choose, and he chose to die, to kill himself. You know, every time I met a drug dealer or somebody who was involved in the business, it's like they told you that it's not gonna happen the same for me. You know, they think they're smarter than Pablo Escobar, and everybody thinks, okay, I learned from that. This is not going to happen to me. And I can assure you that I don't know any retired drug dealers. They are all dead or in prison. That's the end.
I don't know why. Personally, I saw the picture many times, but I always kept seeing it because whenever I see it again, I see something else. I see something different. It is a picture full with emotions. It's a picture is full with information. It gives you the conclusion. A person laying down with only one bullet. He did plenty of bombs and bullets, so it comes back to one only bullet.
3 bullets, one in his knee and one in his
No,
shoulder.
I mean the bullet that ended
in his head, yes.
Which you have
Right
somewhat
here.
raises is that he might even did it for himself.
Yes, because he always teach me how to commit suicide, because he taught me, look, once you feel surrounded by our own enemies, you have to kill yourself, because if they take you alive, they will make you a lot of harm. So it's better if you take your life. And he explained to me why I shouldn't shot myself in my mouth or here, because the bullet can just take another path and doesn't harm you really. So he was very involved in how to commit suicide successfully, just with a single bullet, and that's it. And he told me that he spoke with doctors, and they explained him that the best way to kill yourself is to put a bullet in one of your ears. So, and the bullet that you can find in my father's head is just 2 millimeters away from the right ear. And for 10 years of his life, he was telling me, I have 15 bullets in my gun. 14 will be for my enemies, and the last one will always be for me.
Okay, I want to, last time, so I can go back to the main purpose why we're here, but I want to clarify this, why I see this picture many times and multiple times, since long time ago, since even I imagined to have the chance to meet you. A foreigner in the picture, a policeman, happy policeman, smiling as you said, like, and a really powerful person laying down. Which angle you want us to see, or what angle do you choose when you see the picture? Where does your eyes go?
Well, when I see that picture, I know for sure that none of the guys that appear in the picture were there by the time that my father was killed. They all can assure you, if you interview them, that they were there. But there is an official record of the Colombian police that says that they killed my father in a shopping center. So can they explain us that better? Because the official reports say that they killed Pablo Escobar like 2 kilometers away from the place he originally died. Did they move the body? I don't think so.
When I saw the video, I saw another member of the family, or the only member of family that is, his reaction to the news was filmed in a camera. And that was also a surprise for me a few minutes ago, that you told me that she was also part of who portrayed the family. Your grandmother.
My grandmother.
I saw the video with my eyes. No one told me that. I saw how
Me too.
she cried when running towards her son's place. Is she
Well, I
really
really didn't think that she was crying because her son died. Perhaps she was crying because she was part of that. You know, she was part of his own enemies. That's a different perspective of the story. You can cry, but you don't have to say to the news that the real reason why you are crying. So, and I'm telling you this because when I was forced to visit the Cali cartel, I saw my grandmother there. And I saw with my eyes, and my mother was with me, when she asked the Cali cartel leaders to, before they killed me, that she wanted part of all of my properties that I was about to inherit from my father. So she wasn't the good lady that we can see on Narcos. I wish that I could have that grandmother, that kind of the Hollywood version of my grandmother.
So you're saying in the meeting where you wanted to have your life, she was sitting in the opposite side of the table?
In the other sofa.
In the other sofa?
With the Cali cartel members. And they were treating them like friends. And we were treated like enemies.
And as I imagined, you said also another...
It's not gossip, it's what I saw, you know, it's something very serious. And I felt very sad because we were explaining to them that we were just trying to get in touch with the Cali cartel to make peace with them, so we will stop all the killings and all the violence, and we will pay for everybody, so everything will stop. And they were just like surprised, we are glad that you are doing that, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, they were all together even before my father died.
And this is why you said before that only you and your sister and mother had threat messages.
Yes, they didn't have to leave the country. They never received death threats. Why? How come is that his own wife and daughter and son, I'm talking about myself, we have to go away. And we were forced to never return to Colombia. But they could stay here freely and nothing happened to them for the past 25 years. The only explanation for that is because they betrayed my father. Is because they sold my father to his enemies. We were never capable of negotiating my father's love, and we will never deliver my father to his enemies, even if we were against his own violence. Okay. Because we are loyal.
I'll tell you.
And about Roberto, something else. I remember that my father, the last time I saw my father personally,
when he cried?
Yeah, when he cried. He gave me an advice, and in front of my wife and my mother, he told me, please take care of Manuela, my little daughter, my sister. And I asked him why, and I want you to keep an eye on her because when I die, if Roberto stays with a lot of money, perhaps he won't harm you and your sister, but if I die and he doesn't have any kind of money, he's capable of kidnapping your own sister, so you have to keep an eye on her. Imagine Pablo Escobar saying to you as a son, be careful with your uncle Roberto because he's capable of kidnapping your own sister.
And this was in front of your mother?
Yes, and my wife also. At the time we were boyfriends and
girlfriends.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another name of two other stars of Narcos, which is Steve Murphy and Javier Menena. What do you think of them?
Well, they was just like searching for a ghost. They never met Pablo Escobar, but they became specialists in Pablo Escobar's subject.
You met them?
No, I asked, not them directly, but I asked Joe Tough, the head of the DEA in Colombia at the time, to meet each other to speak about the past. And he answered me that if perhaps someday he will visit Buenos Aires, he will call me for a coffee, but I don't think they are comfortable to speak with me.
Why?
Well, recently I published in my second book a story, a chapter that shows how my father worked with some DEA agents for 3 years for the drug trafficking business. He was sending 800 kilos per week using Medellin and Miami's international airports and commercial airlines to send the cocaine with people without passport and visas, and the DEA agents received them as heroes in Miami airport. So I don't think there's a very uncomfortable things to speak about, and I don't think that if we met, it will be an honest conversation from their side. I don't have nothing against them, but I think that we have all to recognize that there is a lot of corruption in the drug trafficking business, and it won't be so successful if there isn't a precise participation of officials, immigration officers, policemen, and even the airline personnel. A lot of people is involved in the business. It's not just that a couple of drug dealers decide to send drugs to the United States or to some other country and they succeed with that. No, it doesn't work that way.
That takes me to one of the final questions. How you insist on saying the truthful story or this truthful version of the story. Many say the opposite. No, maybe you're not saying the truthful statements or the facts, such as, for example, how is it that you left without no money? Now they're finding money under the bridges that belongs to Pablo Escobar. They put it in the picture. We saw it in the pictures.
Yes, because it's amazing. You know, I don't know why people just can see a newspaper and they believe it because it's printed, it's truth, you know, that's it. No, I saw that in the picture, in the newspaper, printed, you know, and they show you a small recipe of, I don't know the word of, a small box of dollars, and they tell you there's $600 million there. And everybody believes that because most of the people never saw $1 million in the real life. And a real $1 million is very heavy and it occupies a lot of volume, you know. And they just printed out we found $600 million of Pablo Escobar, and everybody believes that. Come on, man, it's just $1 million. And who can tell that that $1 million belong to Pablo Escobar? Do they find their signature or their fingerprints there? Because there's a lot of drug dealers in the world, you know, it could be anyone's money. So you can find a lot of lies. And people is taking advantage of that because they sell a lot of copies of that kind of crap in newspapers, you know, because if they publish something fantastic about Pablo Escobar, people will buy that crap.
You don't believe in what Pablo Escobar did, but still you tried twice to make it a brand in the United States of America. Why did you try with your family to make it a brand?
Because I think I have more right than Netflix to do that. At least I am the son. I don't know that there's somebody from the family working for Netflix. I don't think so. I think I really do have the legal right to do that more than anyone else. And I think they are breaking the law, publishing fake news about my father, telling lies about him, about myself, about my mother, without even our own authorization. And I try to be very responsible in that because I think we really have the right to use that brand, but for good. We can use that brand with two purposes: to harm society or to help society not to repeat the story. And I prefer the last part, you know. I prefer to use my own story and my father's story to encourage others not to repeat my father's story. I am not proud of my father's violence at all, and I keep saying to the world and to the young kids around the world, I give a lot of lectures to them, And I always explain to them, look, we have a lot of money, but we were starving. There's no happy life in the drug trafficking business. If you think if you became a drug trafficking business, you're going to be happy, you are wrong. That's not the path for happiness.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks to you.
This
man.
is our gift.
Oh man,
that
beautiful.
represent
Thank
our
you.
country, our program.
Thank you very much.
Where we
man.
travel all over the world to meet different stories, to be inspirational, and I'm really sure that many young people will see this episode. And thank you for what you shared. Thank you very much.
No, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. قد يصعب عد الملايين يدويا، ولكن كان ضيفنا يقدرها بالنظر. كيف لا وهو من عاش محاطا بالملايين، ولكن رغم ذلك كان يقول كنت أعاني من الجوع. وكونه ابن لأحد أهم المجرمين فهو الوحيد الذي كان مصرح له بقول لا لتلك الجرائم. رغم ذلك كان يؤكد بأن والده يعلم جيدا عواقب أفعاله، إلا أنه فضل أن يبقى بالقمة لأطول فترة ممكنة، وضيفنا فضل أن يترجل منها من أجل أن يربي ابنه بأحوال تختلف عن اختيار جده. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه.